Mom won't know. My son-in-law laughed from the other side of the kitchen wall, and for a second I stood there holding a warm apple pie, like I had walked into the wrong life. That was the sentence that changed everything. Not a scream, not an accusation, just 5 careless words, spoken by a man who thought my age made me invisible. I was 71 years old, standing in the hallway of my daughter's house in Westchester, New York, with powdered sugar on my sleeve and my late husband's old wool coat folded over my arm. I had come for Sunday dinner because Emily said she missed me. That was how she put it on the phone, sweet enough to make me feel guilty for hesitating. Mom, come over. Ryan's making roast chicken. We just want a quiet family night. I believed her, because mothers are foolish in one particular way. We keep hoping our children mean the soft version of what they say. I had spent the afternoon baking the pie from scratch in my Brooklyn brownstone, peeling Granny Smith apples at the kitchen counter Robert built with his own hands in 1984. The recipe card was still in his handwriting. A little cinnamon. Not too much nutmeg. Let Maggie decide. He had been gone 6 years, and I still heard him in small things. The hinge on the pantry door. The third stair that creaked. The way evening light hit the front windows just before 6. That house held 41 years of my life. It held Emily's first steps, her prom pictures, her college acceptance letter taped to the refrigerator. It held Robert's last Christmas and every quiet morning I survived after losing him. So when Emily started saying the house was too much for me, I told myself she was worried. When Ryan asked about property taxes, insurance, the deed, and whether my name was the only name on the title, I told myself he was just a real estate broker who couldn't stop thinking like one. I told myself many things. That night, I arrived 15 minutes early. Emily's car was in the driveway. Ryan's black SUV was parked crooked near the garage, the way he always parked, like the world had agreed to make room for him. I rang once, but nobody came. The front door was unlocked, so I stepped inside and called out. No answer. I could hear them in the kitchen. At first, I smiled. Then I heard paper sliding across a counter. Ryan said, "The old deed won't matter once she signs the cleanup form." Emily laughed softly. Mom won't know. She didn't even understand what she signed last time. I stopped breathing. The pie was still warm against my palms. Then Ryan said, "By the time she figures it out, the filing will already be done." I did not walk in. I did not drop the pie. I did not make the dramatic scene they probably would have used against me later. I simply stood there, listening to my only daughter discuss me like paperwork. And what Emily did not know was that the following Monday morning, a man at the county clerk's office would open one file with my name on it, and from that moment on, the house she thought she had taken from me would begin finding its way back. For most of my life, I believed a house could remember. I know how that sounds, but anyone who has lived long enough inside the same walls will understand. My brownstone on Dean Street in Brooklyn was not grand by New York standards. 3 stories, narrow front steps, old brick that darkened after rain, a small garden in the back where Robert once tried and failed to grow tomatoes. But to me, it was a whole country. Robert and I bought it in 1984, back when the neighborhood still had corner stores that knew your name and parking on our block was something close to a miracle. We were young enough to be brave and broke enough to think hard work could fix anything. The bank officer looked at us like we were dreaming too big. Robert squeezed my hand under the desk and said, "We are not buying a building. We are buying a future." I was 30 years old then, working accounts payable for a small construction company in Queens. Robert drove a delivery truck during the week and took side jobs on Saturdays. We painted the rooms ourselves because we could not afford painters. We refinished the floors 1 square foot at a time. One winter, the furnace died, and we slept in coats for 3 nights while Robert learned how to replace a part from a library book. Emily was born. In the second-floor bedroom during a February snowstorm, not literally in the room, of course, but that was where I brought her home, wrapped in a yellow blanket, so tiny I was afraid to breathe too loudly near her. Her crib stood beside the radiator. Her first word was light, pointing at the stained glass window above the front door. Every inch of that house had her in it. Pencil marks on the kitchen doorframe showing how tall she was each birthday. A tiny crack in the hallway tile from the time she dropped Robert's toolbox trying to help him. A blue paint stain under the basement sink from her 8th grade science project. That was why I ignored the first warning signs. When your child grows up inside a home, you never imagine she will someday look at it and see only square footage. After Robert died, the house became quieter, but it never felt empty. His things remained in their places. His reading glasses in the drawer by his chair. His Yankees cap on the hook near the back door. His old wooden document box in the hall closet, the one he always told me to keep safe. Inside were the original deed, the mortgage payoff letter, our property tax records, and a note he wrote the year his heart first started giving him trouble. Maggie, never let anyone rush you with papers. I used to think that was just Robert being careful. He had seen too many people lose things because they trusted the wrong smile. I did not know he was leaving me a warning. 6 years after I buried him, Emily began visiting more often. At first, I was grateful. She brought groceries from Whole Foods, changed light bulbs I could still reach, and fussed over the front steps when it rained. "Mom, this place is a lot for one person," she said one afternoon, touching the banister like it was already being measured. "You should not have to worry about all this alone." I wanted to hear love in that sentence. So I did. Then Ryan started coming with her. He walked through my room slowly, asking casual questions that did not feel casual. What was the current market value? Was the basement apartment legal? Had Robert ever added Emily to the title? Did I have a trust? I answered because I thought. Family questions deserved family answers. Now I understand something I did not want to understand then. Some people do not ask because they care. They ask because they are counting. By spring, Emily had become the kind of daughter every neighbor praised and no mother should have trusted too quickly. She called every other morning. She asked if I had eaten breakfast. She reminded me about my cardiologist appointment, though my heart was fine except for the ordinary cracks age leaves behind. She sent me links to articles about seniors falling on stairs, seniors forgetting bills, seniors getting confused by tax notices. Always seniors. Never me. That was how she started making me smaller. Not with insults. With concern sharpened into a tool. "Mom, I just want you protected," she would say, standing in my kitchen with a paper coffee cup in one hand and her phone in the other. "You have no idea how many older homeowners get taken advantage of in New York." I almost laughed the first time she said it. I had balanced budgets for 38 years. I had argued with contractors, tax assessors, insurance adjusters, and one very stubborn plumber who thought a widow would not question an invoice. I knew numbers. I knew paperwork. But Emily said things with such polished patience that I found myself nodding before I realized I had been moved. Ryan was smoother. He never pushed at first. He admired. That was worse. "This is a beautiful asset, Margaret," he said one Saturday, standing in my front parlor and looking at the crown molding Robert had restored by hand. "Not home. Asset. A place like this in Brooklyn could do a lot for the family if it was structured properly." I asked what he meant. He smiled like he had been waiting for the question. "Nothing dramatic. Maybe a trust. Maybe a limited liability company. Maybe we look at the deed and make sure probate does not become a nightmare later." Probate. Nightmare. Protected. These were the words they kept placing around me like furniture I had not chosen. Emily would sit beside me on the sofa, her knee touching mine, her voice soft. "I do not want to lose you and then spend years in court, Mom. You know how New York can be. Everything becomes expensive." I heard fear in her voice because I wanted to. I did not hear hunger yet. Looking back, the hunger was there every time her eyes moved toward the hallway closet where Robert's document box sat. She asked once if she could take the papers home and scan them. I said no. Her smile stayed, but the room got colder. "Mom, you really should have digital copies." "I do," I said. "Where?" "Somewhere safe." That was the first time I saw irritation move across her face before she covered it. It was quick. A blink. A tightness at the mouth. Then she touched my hand and said, "Of course. Whatever makes you comfortable." After that, the visits changed. She started opening mail before handing it to me. She offered to pay bills online from her laptop. Ryan walked to the basement with a measuring tape, claiming he was checking for water damage. I found him once near the old file cabinet in Robert's workroom. He said he was looking for a flashlight. The flashlight was hanging on the wall behind him. I did not accuse him. I was not ready to know what I already knew. Then one Thursday in May, Emily called and invited me to dinner at her house. Nothing serious, she said. Just family. Her voice was too bright. I asked if I should bring anything. She paused, then said, "Maybe your reading glasses." I remember standing in my kitchen after she hung up, staring at the phone. Reading glasses. Not pie. Not wine. Not flowers. I looked toward the hall closet. Robert's wooden box was exactly where it had always been. For the first time in 6 years, I took it down, opened it, and read his note again. Never let anyone rush you with papers. I folded the note once and slipped it in my purse. Then I baked an apple pie anyway because some habits are harder to kill than trust. Emily's dining room looked like a picture from a magazine that did not want real people touching anything. White plates. Linen napkins. A glass vase filled with pale flowers that had no scent. The roast chicken sat in the center of the table, browned perfectly, surrounded by carrots and small potatoes arranged so neatly they looked counted. Ryan poured wine without asking if I wanted any. Emily kissed my cheek and held on 1 second too long, the way people do when they are performing tenderness for an invisible audience. "You look tired, Mom," she said. "Are you sleeping enough?"
I sleep fine.
"You say that." She smiled, but her eyes moved to my purse. I had Robert's note inside it. I could feel the folded paper against my wallet like a small, quiet hand on my shoulder. Dinner began normally. That was the strange part. Emily talked about a renovation client who wanted marble countertops. Ryan complained about interest rates. I ate 3 bites of chicken and listened to the silverware touch the plates. Then Emily stood, went to the sideboard, and returned with a blue folder. Not large. Not threatening. That was the trick. Dangerous things often arrive looking organized. She placed it beside my plate. Before dessert, Ryan and I wanted to go over something simple. My stomach went still. Ryan leaned back in his chair like a man about to explain the weather. "It is just a few forms, Margaret. Nothing complicated.
We talked about this.
Protecting the property. Making things easier down the road." I wiped my mouth with a napkin and reached for the folder. Emily moved first, sliding it closer but keeping her fingers on the cover. "We can walk you through it. I can read." The words came out softer than I expected. Ryan gave a small laugh.
Of course you can.
Nobody is saying otherwise. But Emily was already opening the folder to the signature pages, not the first page. I noticed that. She had marked the lines with little yellow stickers. Sign here. Initial here. Date here. A pen rested beside them. Black and expensive, angled toward my right hand. I put on my reading glasses slowly. The first page said estate planning summary. The second page mentioned future management authority.
The third page was where the air changed. Quitclaim date.
I read those 2 words 3 times. Ryan was talking, but his voice moved far away. "It is a common instrument. Very routine. This does not mean you lose anything today. It just creates flexibility." I looked at Emily. Why would I sign a quitclaim deed? Her face tightened, then softened again. "Mom, please do not get stuck on one word." One word.
Date.
The word my husband had guarded for 40 years. The word attached to every mortgage payment, every winter repair, every hour of overtime I had worked. I turned another page. My name was there. Margaret Ann Whitaker. Emily's name was there too. Ryan's business address appeared under mailing instructions. That was when my hand stopped. Why is Ryan's office listed here? Ryan reached toward the paper. I did not let it go. He smiled. "For convenience." "Whose convenience?" Emily sighed as though I had embarrassed her in public, though we were alone at her table. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You see legal language and panic. I closed the folder.
Once.
Carefully. I would like to take this home and read it. The room went quiet enough for me to hear the refrigerator hum. Emily's voice changed. Not louder. Colder. "Mom, We have spent a lot of time putting this together for you. Then it can wait one more night. Ryan's jaw moved. Emily stared at me, and for the first time that evening she looked less like my daughter and more like someone whose plan had been delayed. I stood and reached for my coat. I forgot my pie in the hallway, I said. I will get it. That was the excuse that brought me near the kitchen door. That was where I heard them stop pretending. I stood beside the kitchen doorway with my hand on the edge of the wall, and I learned that silence has a sound. It sounds like your own breath trying not to betray you. It sounds like a daughter lowering her voice because she knows what she is saying would break something if spoken face to face. Emily said, "You push too hard." Ryan answered, "I did not push hard enough. She was supposed to sign tonight." My fingers tightened around the hallway trim. The apple pie sat on the entry table behind me, still covered in foil, still smelling like cinnamon and butter. I remember thinking how strange it was that something made with love could sit a few feet away from something so cold. Emily made a frustrated sound. She saw the quitclaim language. "Because you let her read too much," Ryan said. "Next time, just keep her on the signature page." Next
Time.
The words moved through me slowly. There had already been a last time. There would be a next time. I was not a mother at that table. I was an obstacle they planned to schedule around. Emily said, "What if she calls someone?" Ryan laughed under his breath. "Who is she going to call? She does not have Robert anymore. She does not trust lawyers. And she will not want to believe her own daughter would do anything wrong." That was the sentence that nearly made me step into the room. Not because it was cruel, though it was. Because it was accurate. He had found the softest place in me and described it like a weakness on a form. I did not want to believe Emily could do this. I had taught her to tie her shoes on the second step of the brownstone. I had sat through her school concerts when she played the flute badly and smiled like it was Carnegie Hall. I had mailed her rent checks during her first year after college and never once asked for the money back. I had loved her in all the ordinary, invisible ways mothers are expected to love, and she had counted on that love to make me doubt my own eyes. Then Emily said something I will never forget. "The first filing already went through, did it not?" Ryan answered, "It was recorded. Not clean, but recorded. This one fixes the gaps." My legs felt hollow. The hallway did not move, but I reached for the wall anyway. Recorded. A filing.
A gap.
This was not about preparing for the future. This was about covering what they had already done. Emily whispered, "And if she finds out?" Ryan said, "By then the county records will look confusing enough that she will give up. Older people get tired. They do not fight paperwork." I looked down at my hands. They were not shaking. That surprised me. Maybe the shaking comes when you are still asking why. I had stopped asking. From the dining room, Emily called, "Mom? Did you find it?" Her voice was sweet again.
Soft. Polished.
I picked up the pie with both hands and stepped back toward the dining room. "Yes," I said. "It was right where I left it." Emily smiled as if nothing had happened. Ryan stood and reached for the foil. "Dessert before documents, then," he said. I looked at him. Really looked. At the expensive watch, the careful haircut, the easy confidence of a man who thought paper could turn theft into procedure. "No," I said. "I am tired." Emily's smile faltered. "Mom, do not leave upset." "I am not upset." That was true in a way that frightened even me. Upset was warm. Upset cried in bathrooms and asked for explanations.
What I felt was colder than that.
I put the pie on the table and buttoned Robert's coat. Emily followed me to the front door.
"We can talk tomorrow," she said.
"Of course," I answered. She kissed my cheek. I let her. Her perfume stayed on my skin all the way back to Brooklyn. I drove 40 minutes through dark New York streets with the radio off and Robert's note in my purse. At home, I did not turn on the television. I did not call Emily.
I did not call Ryan.
I walked straight to the hall closet, took down the wooden document box, and placed it on the kitchen table. Then I made coffee, opened the original deed, and read every line until the sun came up. By 7:15 Monday morning, I was dressed in the black wool coat Robert used to say made me look like a woman who knew where she was going. I had not slept. I had not cried. I had only read. The original deed lay on my kitchen table beside Robert's note, my latest tax bill, my driver's license, and a yellow legal pad filled with questions written in handwriting so neat it looked like it belonged to someone else. At 8 o'clock, I called a car service because I did not trust myself with parking in downtown Brooklyn after a night without sleep. The driver talked about traffic on the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. I nodded at the right times and watched the city move past the window like a place I had lived in, but never fully understood. By 8:40, I was standing inside the county clerk's office, holding Robert's document box against my ribs. The building smelled like paper, floor polish, and old patience. People stood in lines with folders tucked under their arms. A young couple argued quietly over a marriage certificate. A contractor in work boots tapped his pen against a permit application. Life went on, even while mine had opened beneath my feet. When my number was called, I stepped to the counter and met Thomas Bennett. He was an older man with silver hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and the tired kindness of someone who had spent decades watching people discover what documents really meant. "How can I help you, ma'am?" he asked. I placed my deed on the counter. "I need to check every recent filing connected to this property." He looked at the address, then at me. "Are you the owner?" "Yes." My voice did not shake. "Margaret and Whitaker." He typed slowly, the keys clicking in a rhythm that made my shoulders tighten. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then his expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough. His eyebrows drew together. He leaned closer to the screen. "Mrs. Whitaker," he said, "do you have an attorney?" I felt the floor go quiet under me. "Why?" He did not answer right away. He clicked once, then again. A printer behind him woke up and began pushing out pages. There was a deed transfer filed 11 days ago. I heard the words. I understood each one. Together, they made no sense. That is impossible. I am looking at the recording now. I did not sign a deed transfer. Thomas looked at me over his glasses, and something in his face softened without becoming pity.
I was grateful for that. Pity would have broken me.
He walked to the printer, gathered the pages, and set them on the counter between us. "I can give you a certified copy." I looked down. My name was there. My property address was there. Emily's name appeared as grantee. Ryan's business address appeared as the return mailing address. Then I saw the signature. It tried to be mine. It had the curve of my M, the long line under Whitaker, the careful spacing I had used for years. But it was not mine. A stranger had copied the shape of my name without knowing the weight of it. "The birth date is wrong," I said. My voice sounded far away. Thomas looked. "You are right. The middle initial is wrong too." He frowned deeper. I pointed to the notary section. "And this notary retired 2 years ago. I remember because Robert and I used him when we refinanced in 2016. Thomas became very still. Then he lowered his voice. "Mrs. Whitaker, I need you to listen carefully. Do not call your daughter from this building. Do not confront anyone today. Take this copy to a real estate attorney immediately." I folded my hands on the counter, so he would not see how cold they had become. "Can this be stopped?" He looked back at the screen. "It can be challenged, but you need to move quickly." I nodded once. That was all. No scene.
No tears.
Just one nod from a woman who had arrived as a mother and was leaving as the legal owner of a problem someone else had created. Outside, the morning sun hit the courthouse steps. I stood there with the certified copy in one hand and Robert's note in the other. Then I took out my phone and called Elaine Porter, the attorney who had handled Robert's estate. When her assistant answered, I said, "Tell Miss Porter this is Margaret Whitaker. I need the first appointment she has today." The assistant asked what it was regarding. I looked at the file in my hand. "My daughter tried to take my house," I said. "And this time, I am not signing anything except to fight." Elaine Porter's office was on the 9th floor of an older building near Court Street, the kind with brass elevator doors and a lobby guard who looked like he had seen every family secret in Brooklyn pass through with a folder under its arm. I arrived at 10:30 with a certified copy from the county clerk, Robert's original deed, and a calmness that did not feel natural. Elaine had handled Robert's estate 6 years earlier. She was in her early 60s, with silver hair cut to her chin and eyes that missed nothing. When I walked in, she stood up before I said a word. "Margaret," she said, "sit down." I did. Then I placed the papers on her desk. She read without interrupting. That was one thing I always respected about Elaine. She did not gasp to prove she cared. She did not fill silence with sympathy. She read the way surgeons wash their hands, carefully, and because lives depend on it. After 5 minutes, she removed her glasses and looked at me. "This signature is not yours." "No." "Did you authorize any transfer of interest in the Dean Street property?" "No." "Did you give Emily or Ryan power of attorney?" "Never." She nodded once, then pulled a yellow pad toward her. "Then we are not dealing with confusion. We are dealing with a fraudulent filing." The word landed cleanly. Fraudulent. Not misunderstanding. Not family tension. Not mom being dramatic. A real word. A word with edges. Elaine made 3 phone calls while I sat across from her with my purse in my lap. First to the county clerk's office. Then to a title company she trusted. Then to someone in the real estate fraud unit she said owed her a favor from a case in Queens. She asked short questions and wrote faster than I could follow. Block recording activity. Flag the parcel. Obtain notary history. Check pending liens. Pull title search. Every phrase opened another door. By noon, we had the second layer. The deed transfer was not the only document. Ryan had submitted a preliminary loan package using my brownstone as part of a collateral statement for a commercial line of credit connected to his brokerage. Not completed yet. Not funded yet. But prepared. My house, the one Robert and I paid off 1 check at a time, had been listed as support for money I never requested and never would have approved. Elaine turned her monitor toward me. "This is why they needed the cleanup form." I looked at the screen. My address sat there in black letters, reduced to asset value, estimated equity, lien position, owner transfer pending. I read the words twice. They made my home sound like something lying on a warehouse shelf. "They were not waiting for me to die," I said. My voice was quiet. Elaine looked at me for a long moment. "No, Margaret. They were trying to make you legally disappear while you were still alive." I pressed my fingers against Robert's note inside my purse. Not hard. Just enough to remember it was there. Elaine slid a box of tissues closer. I did not take one. Tears would come later, maybe, but not in that chair. Not while my daughter's name was sitting on a fraudulent deed. "What do we do first?" I asked. Elaine's mouth changed. It was almost a smile, but sharper. "First, we protect the property. I am filing an emergency notice and a challenge today. The title company will freeze anything connected to Ryan's loan package. Second, we document everything. Third, we let them come to you. Come to me. They still think you are confused. Let them believe it for 1 more day." I understood then. Emily and Ryan needed my real signature to clean up the mistakes they had made with the false one. That meant they would try again. They would bring another folder, another pen, another soft voice. Elaine leaned back. "When they do, you do not argue. You invite them to your house." I thought of my front parlor, Robert's chair, the stained glass window above the door, Emily's pencil marks on the kitchen frame. "And then?" I asked. Elaine gathered the papers into a neat stack and tapped them straight against her desk. "Then we put the right people in the room before they put the wrong paper in front of you." That afternoon, Emily called 3 times. I let the phone ring. On the 4th call, I answered. Her voice was honey again. "Mom, I hate how dinner ended. Can Ryan and I stop by tomorrow? Just to talk." I looked at Elaine. She nodded. I said, "Yes, sweetheart. Come by at 4. Emily exhaled, relieved. "Good. We will bring everything." I looked at the certified copy on Elaine's desk. "So will I said. At 3:45 the next afternoon, my brownstone was cleaner than it had been in months. Not because I wanted to impress Emily, because I needed my hands to do something while I waited. I dusted Robert's chair. I wiped the front window. I straightened the framed photograph of Emily on her high school graduation day, even though looking at it made something twist behind my ribs. Elaine arrived first, carrying a leather briefcase and wearing the expression of a woman who had already decided how the room would end. Thomas Bennett came 10 minutes later with a sealed envelope of certified copies from the county clerk's office. With him was a woman named Denise from the title company, quiet, professional, holding a folder marked investigation review. I let them in through the front door and watched each of them step into the parlor Robert had painted pale blue the summer Emily turned 12. The room did not feel like a home that afternoon. It felt like a witness stand. Elaine placed her documents on the coffee table. Thomas sat near the window. Denise took the chair closest to the hallway. I remained standing until the doorbell rang at exactly 4. Emily always arrived late unless she wanted something. That day, she was on time. I opened the door. She stood there in a cream coat, hair smooth, smile careful. Ryan was beside her with the same blue folder tucked under his arm. His eyes moved past me into the house before he even said hello. "Mom," Emily said, leaning in for a kiss. I turned my cheek and she kissed air. Ryan gave a pleasant nod. "Margaret, hope you are feeling better today." "I am feeling very clear," I said. He blinked once. Then they stepped inside. Emily saw Elaine first. Her smile froze. Ryan saw Thomas, then Denise, then the papers on the coffee table. For the first time since I had known him, he did not look comfortable in my house. "What is this?" he asked. Elaine stood. "A conversation about the Dean Street property." Emily gave a small laugh, the kind meant to make everyone else feel unreasonable. "Mom, why is there an attorney here? We came to help you." I walked to Robert's chair and sat down. I had avoided that chair since his funeral. That day, I needed it. "You brought papers," I said. "So did I." Ryan tightened his grip on the folder. "This is unnecessary. We were only trying to simplify estate planning." Elaine opened her briefcase and removed the certified copy Thomas had printed. She laid it flat on the table. "Then perhaps you can explain why a deed transfer was recorded 11 days ago with Margaret Whittaker's signature, Emily Carter listed as grantee, and your business address as the return address." Nobody spoke. The old house made its ordinary sounds. A radiator ticked. A car passed outside. Somewhere upstairs, the floor settled, like Robert was shifting his weight. Emily looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at the paper. "That was preliminary," he said. Elaine's voice stayed even. "Recorded instruments are not preliminary." Denise opened her folder. "And the same property appears in a collateral worksheet submitted with your commercial loan inquiry." Ryan's face changed then. Not much. Just enough to show the mask had cracked. Emily turned toward me. "Mom, you do not understand what they are saying." I looked at her until she stopped talking. "I understand every word." Thomas cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Carter, the filing contains an incorrect birth date, an incorrect middle initial, and a notary stamp that requires review. The clerk's office has flagged the record pending investigation." Emily's cheeks went pale under her makeup. Ryan tried to speak over him. "This is a clerical issue." Elaine looked at him.
No.
A clerical issue is when someone misspells a street name. This is a deed recorded without the owner's authorization. Emily's eyes filled, but the tears looked late, like she had remembered they might help. "Mom, we were trying to protect you." I leaned forward and placed Robert's note on top of the folder. "Never let anyone rush you with papers." "You were not protecting me," I said. "You were practicing on me." Her mouth opened.
Closed.
Ryan set the blue folder on the table, but he did not open it. Elaine reached for it instead. "I would advise you not to remove or destroy any documents related to this matter." That was when Emily finally lost the soft voice. "You were supposed to trust me," she said. The room went still. There it was. Not an apology. Not regret. A complaint that I had stopped being useful. I stood slowly. "I did trust you, Emily. That was the part you used." She looked at me like I had slapped her, though I had only returned the truth. Ryan muttered something about calling his attorney. Elaine nodded. That would be wise. I walked to the front door and opened it. My daughter stared at me from the parlor, waiting for the mother and me to come running back and make the room gentle again. I did not.
You can leave now, I said.
And for the first time in my life, Emily left my house without taking anything with her. The weeks that followed were not loud. That surprised me. I had expected slammed doors, furious calls, maybe Emily standing on my steps demanding that I fix what she had broken. Instead, everything became paperwork. Real paperwork this time. Elaine filed the challenge. The county clerk's office placed a flag on the recorded deed. The title company froze anything connected to Ryan's loan package before a single dollar could move. The notary's stamp was sent for review. Ryan's attorney called Elaine twice and stopped calling after she sent him copies of the documents, the signature comparison, and Thomas Bennett's written statement. Emily texted me for the first 3 days. At first, she sounded injured, then confused, then loving. Mom, this has gotten out of hand. Mom, Ryan made mistakes, but he meant well. Mom, please do not let strangers turn us against each other. I read each message at my kitchen table beneath the same light where I had once helped her with spelling homework. I did not answer. Not because I hated her. Hate would have been easier. I did not answer because every word she sent still tried to make me responsible for the pain she caused. On the 9th day, Elaine called and said the transfer would not stand. The county had enough problems with the filing to support the challenge, and the title company had formally rejected the property as collateral. Ryan's commercial loan collapsed. His brokerage partners found out. Emily found out that my silence was not confusion. It was instruction. 2 days later, I met Elaine at her office and signed a new living trust. My hand was steady. The brownstone would remain mine for as long as I lived. After that, it would not go to Emily. Part of its value would fund housing assistance for widowed women in New York who had been pushed, pressured, or treated like burdens by their own families. Another part would support legal aid for older homeowners facing deed fraud. Elaine read the final clause aloud, then looked at me. Are you certain? I thought of Emily's first steps in the hallway. I thought of the blue paint under the basement sink. I thought of Robert's note, worn soft now from my fingers. Yes, I said. I am certain. That evening, Emily came to the brownstone alone. I saw her through the front window before she rang. No cream coat this time.
No polished smile.
Just my daughter standing on the steps where I had taken her first day of school pictures. I opened the door, but did not move aside. Her eyes were red. Maybe from crying. Maybe from losing. By then, I knew there was a difference. I am your daughter, she said. For words. She offered them like a key. I held the doorframe and looked at the woman I had raised, the woman I had loved, the woman who had mistaken my love for blindness. Then you should have remembered I was your mother before you treated me like paperwork. She covered her mouth. For a moment, I saw the little girl with scraped knees and tangled hair, the child who used to run into my arms when thunder shook the windows. I wanted to reach for that child. But the woman on my steps had forged my name into a trap and called it protection. So I stayed still. Can we fix this? She whispered. Not with another signature, I said. She cried then, quietly. I did not close the door in her face. I also did not invite her in. That was the line I had spent 71 years learning how to draw. After she left, I walked to the hall closet and took down Robert's wooden box. I placed the original deed, the trust papers, and his note inside a new fireproof safe Elaine had recommended. The safe was heavy, practical, and not sentimental at all. I liked that. Then I stood in the front parlor as evening settled over Dean Street. The stained glass window above the door caught the last bit of light and scattered it across the floor in small pieces of blue and gold. For the first time in months, the house felt quiet without feeling lonely. I did not win because my daughter lost. I did not protect the brownstone because brick and wood matter more than blood. I protected it because it held proof that I had a name, a life, and the right to say no. Robert had been right. Never let anyone rush you with papers. But he had not told me the other part. Never let anyone turn your love into permission to erase you.